today's episode of the Habitz Podcast, we've got Rebecca Lowrie, who'll be sharing with us her good habits when it comes to sexual intimacy. So thanks for joining us in the studio. First things first, some of our audience will be tuning in wondering what makes you our guest expert when it comes to sexual intimacy.
Hi, Mike. Thank you for having me. I'm Rebecca Lowrie, sometimes known as the Sexual Alchemist. Over the years, 15 years of doing this work, I've worked with men and women and trans people. Currently, I work with men 50 and older who have very little to no experience of sex and pleasure and intimacy. I've worked with thousands of men over the years. I've written a book about it. So day to day, I work with men in programs where they can come and explore who they are as a sexual being, clearing blockages that stop them from already being that, and basically blossoming and becoming the best sexual self they can be.
So you must have seen then a lot of men that have got the same kind of traits or the same sort of problems. So what are some of the things that men get wrong or misunderstand or have problems with when it does come to sexual intimacy?
That is a loaded question. I would say a lot of the top things I see are men who are lacking confidence, who've had a lot of fear or shame and conditioning piled on them from, family, social media, church, wherever, all kinds of religion. We all pick up conditioning, and so then they get stuck, unable to express themselves, to be who they are. And it's particularly bad in the realms of intimacy and pleasure and sexuality because it's a big taboo area. Another thing I see a lot is people will hide who they really are. So maybe they've heard things like they're not good enough, or they shouldn't have arousal or desire, or anything about them not being enough or not being good enough. And so they hide those parts of themselves. Then they become a shell of who they are. And then intimacy is really difficult to attain. Intimacy is into me see. It's the thing we deeply desire the most and the thing we fear the most as well. So if you're not bringing all of who you are into the moment, which most of the guys I work with aren't, then intimacy is hard to get to. After years of hiding who you are, it becomes a habit. You don't even realize you're doing it. What amazes me is these guys come along. They're very often kind of geeky IT engineering guys that are hiding behind a desk or hiding behind their laptops or their computers. And they don't even realize underneath the shell of who they're pretending to be is this really sexy, sensual, playful, cheeky guy. Every time, hands down, 100%, that's who I find. So another thing that I see is because we're not taught about sex or what sexuality is or what sexual expression is, people have a very small box of understanding of what it is. So they think that it requires like penis and vagina. I don't know if I can say that here. They think it requires penis and vagina, or it's about friction sex, or it has to have penetration, or that you even need another person there. And it's nice to have another person there, for sure. But you can learn ways to be with your sexual energy that's for energizing you, that's for healing you, that's for connecting with nature, that's for connecting with the stars and the moon and the planets and all sorts of things. So there's lots of uses for your sexual energy and how you express that, besides just having to have a girlfriend and have missionary sex. That's a small tip of the iceberg thing that you can do. And so a bad habit I see is people thinking that is sex.
So what are some of your good habits you would suggest for people that are confident with their sexual intimacy?
Good question. Cultivate self-awareness. Who are you? Who are you bringing into the bedroom? Who are you being as an intimate person? What do you like? What do you not like? How do you like to receive pleasure? How do you like to give pleasure? What are your boundaries? How do you give consent? How do you behave when you get rejection? All those things that are really important skills for the bedroom and actually for life. Is you need to know yourself really well.
So self-awareness there that really inside the bedroom but also outside the bedroom would help you be a more confident person in everyday life.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I said this to you before, but how a man feels about himself in the bedroom is how he carries himself in the rest of his life. So if you feel like, I'm all right in the bedroom, you don't have to think, yeah, I'm just a great hitter in the bedroom and I'm so great. It's not even about that. It's just steady. Yeah, I'm all right. Sometimes I mess it up and that's okay. And we have a talk about it and I don't die when something bad happens. Yeah. It's having that level of self-awareness to say, yeah, I'm pretty good. I know some stuff and I'm willing to learn and I can be vulnerable and I'm willing to communicate about it. Those are skills you need in business, you need them in life, you need them with your children, and you need them to be a really amazing lover. Another really good habit is to get out of your head and into your body. So a million reasons why. If you are, maybe you've experienced this before, you're doing the do with someone and you don't feel like they're there with you. Their body's there, but they're not there. Maybe they are worried about what they look like, or they're thinking about the shopping, or some business things come in. And so they're not having the experience.
Yeah.
You know, their body's there. So if it's you and you're not in your body, and a lot of us aren't in our bodies unless we practice getting into our body because we've been shamed for being in it, you know, the body's kind of taboo, then you have to learn how to be in your body. Yeah, how to stop thinking and start feeling and sensing. My third one, which is actually my number one tip, is learn how to be present, because intimacy and pleasure and connection is happening right here, right now, in the present moment. And so if you're thinking about the past, you're not here. If you're projecting into the future, you're not here. The present is where intimacy is. And so if you can be really present with someone, in fact, can I tell you a quick story?
Yeah.
So a few years ago, I went into a phone shop to have my phone repaired, and it was one of those really tiny little like closet shops. And so it was very intimate. And one of the guys asked me, what did I do for a living? And I said, I help men have better sex. That's just what fell out of my mouth at the time. And he backed away from me, you know, looked at me very suspiciously. And then a few minutes later, he said, could you help me? And I said, yeah, come here. He said, what do you mean, come here? I said, come here. And he was like looking around. There's people in the shop, you know. I didn't know what I was doing. This just happened. So I got him to stand in front of me, and I said, close your eyes, take some breaths, come into your body. And when you feel like you're present and in your body, I want you to open your eyes and I want you to look into mine. And I'm going to do the same thing. He was like, okay. So he closed his eyes and he kind of shuffled himself. And I could feel him come into his body because I could feel when someone's really present. And he opened his eyes and we looked into each other's eyes, really present. And he went, oh my God, that's amazing. Like seconds. That's amazing. That's amazing. I'm going to go tell my girlfriend. Like, that's all you need. There's no methods and techniques. There's loads of methods and techniques, but none of them matter if you're not present.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're thinking, am I doing it right? You're not in the doing of it.
I also imagine that that's similar to, I've heard people describe anxiety and depression, the same thing. Like if you're anxious, you're thinking about something that might happen in the future. Mm-hmm. If you're depressed, often it's because you're thinking about things that have happened.
Yeah. So I think there's different kinds of anxiety and depression. Sometimes it's a chemical reaction in the body. Sometimes it's a thought process. Sometimes I think it's something else. Yeah,
so that's just good advice just for in life in general, isn't it? Just being present in the moment and stuff like that, you know, experiencing things as they're happening, be aware of what's happening.
Well, you think about when we talk about actors that have stage presence, because you can feel them from the audience.
Yeah.
And that's what you want from a lover. You want to feel them.
So for any of our viewers that have tuned in and want to know more about sexual intimacy, where could we find you?
I have a website, RebeccaLowrie.com. I have a book that's on Amazon, 101 Meditations for Life, Business, and Bedroom Success. I'm on all the social media under my name, Rebecca Lowrie. And I also have a course called Embracing Your Inner Lover, which you can find on my website.
So that was Rebecca sharing with us her good habits when it comes to sexual intimacy. If you've got any tips when it comes to intimacy, let us know in the usual places and join us next time for some more Habitz Podcast.